अस्सलाम वालेकुम व्यूअर्स। आज के इस वीडियो में हम डिस्कस करेंगे मिसेस डॉलवे विच इज़ रिटन बाय वर्जीना वुल्फ। वर्जीना वुल्फ वाज एन इंग्लिश नॉवेलिस्ट, एसेist, biographer and feminist. Virginia considered one of the most important modernist author of the 20th century. She was born in 25 January 1882 and she was died in 28 March 1941. About novel, Mrs. Dalloway is a novel by Virginia Woolf published on 14 May 1925. It is about a detailed day in the life of a Clarissa Dalloway, ठीक है, a fictional upper class woman in post First World War England. It is one of the Woolf's best work. This novel describes Clarissa preparation for a party that she will host in the evening. With an interior perspective, the story travels toward and backward in time to show the image of Clarissa life and war structure. आप इसकी समरी जाके पहले किसी और चैनल पे देखा है, क्योंकि मेरे चैनल पे जस्ट क्वेश्चंस अपलोड होते हैं, ठीक है। हिस्टोरिकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट इसका देख लेंगे किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में लिखी गई है। मिसेस डॉलवे टेक प्लेस इन जून 1923. वर्ल्ड वार वन एंडेड इन 1918. Hundreds of thousands soldiers died fighting and the country suffered from huge financial losses. Also shows the tragedy of the lost generation following World War One, as from like Septimus as a victim of PTSD, ठीक है। थीम्स की बात कर लेते हैं। प्राइवेसी, लोनलीनेस एंड कम्युनिकेशन, दिस इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थीम इन दिस नावल. मिसेस डॉलवे बाय वर्जीनिया वुल्फ shows the mind of her character while revealing their communication with one another. The character deals with privacy, loneliness, and communication in various ways, such as introvert prefer and party-loving Clarissa, who find the true heart of life in their own rooms. Septimus, a character with traumatic stress disorder, struggle with inner conflict and loneliness due to the inherent privacy of the soul. Social criticism. This novel is a satire on post-war authoritarianism and on English society. Virginia shows the decline of the British Empire, which was the strongest in the world. England victory in the war resulted in death and financial issues. Losses. Mrs. Dalloway shows the upper class loyalty to ancient custom. From example, Septimus is the best example. This character, Lady Aunt and Hug, who have traditional values but all removed from social modern life, and only their focus on social class remain. All characters focus on social class, like Clarissa and inviting her poor cousin in her party time. This novel focuses on the passage of time over a single day with no real chapter books. This story is packed into a limited number of pages and with recollection and thoughts. Novel shows the complex relationship between Clarissa and Prefer Richard and Sally, who replay their childhood at Burton in Explored throughout the back. Psychology and perception. This novel shows based on inner dialogue and stream of consciousness, shows the character's mental states through Woolf's own experiences with mental illness. Woolf had a distrust on doors regarding psychology, which she shows clearly in Dr. Holmes. Septimus is a tragic example of just show how much harm doctor can do. Septimus shows the inner and mental illness, while also shows how the mind perceives external sensation and time. This novel shows the themes of death and its impact on characters, thoughts, and actions. Septimus, a mentally ill man like himself, viewing himself as a godlike figure, preferred soldier, fear from growing old and dying. उसके बाद आ जाते हैं PTSD in Mrs. Dalloway. In PTSD in Mrs. Dalloway, the character of Septimus is a clear representation of the psychological impact of अच्छा, जिसके ऊपर psychological impact हो, like डिप्रेशन का शिकार हो, वो करेक्टर, उस करेक्टर को PTSD कहा जाता है, ठीक है। और इसमें जो शिकार था इन सब चीज़ों को, वो Septimus था. He is one of them who shows the trauma of war. Septimus was haunted by the memories of his time in the war, leads him to suicide and destruction. He struggled with the psychological trauma. अच्छा, इसने सुसाइड कर भी ली थी अपनी विंडो से, ठीक है, कूद के, जंप करके. एंजाइटी एंड एस्केप फ्रॉम रियलिटी. सेप्टिमस mental state is a central theme in the novel. Virginia Woolf uses Septimus' characters to comment on the impact of the war on individual and society. His experience highlights the effects of trauma and the difficulty after experiencing the horror of war. Having experienced the horror of war, one Septimus suffers from suffering psychology trauma that recognized on PTSD. He was unable to connect with reality. He was experiencing the psychological trauma resulting from war. So I am done with this video. अगर किसी चीज़ की समझ नहीं आई आप लोग मुझसे पूछ सकते हैं. नेक्स्ट वीडियो तक मुझे दीजिए इजाज़त. See you soon. अल्लाह हाफिज़.